Hello friends, I hope you are having a fantastic day. Why don't you go ahead and give a text message to one of your best friends and just say, hey, I hope you're having a fantastic day too. My name is Joel, and this week we've got a question from our comments section from JML FL12, and he asked about the use of lethal force, especially by members of the armed forces or law enforcement. Is it okay for somebody to take the life of another person if they are threatened or in danger? And that's actually a pretty good question. And the Catholic Church does have a teaching on the use of lethal force, especially in situations of self-defense as it comes to national security or as it comes to defending others or even ourselves personally. But it is a little bit complicated, so let's break it down. First of all, when we talk about lethal force, we might be talking about wartime. And the church would say we need to make sure that if a country is entering into war, which is the most extreme form of non-democracy. So if you enter into war, it means that all other channels have broken down. There are no more negotiations. There is no more diplomacy. Everything has fallen apart, and the only solution now is to enter into a violent conflict where there will be the loss of lives, the destruction of parts of different nations, and ramifications that could last beyond just the wartime period. It's not something to be taken lightly, and so the church says if a country is going to enter into a war, they need to be entering into that war under pretexts that are just. They need to be doing it for reasons that there are no other paths open to diplomacy, no negotiations can be taken, and it is the actually least violent way of resolving a conflict. So if there is a nation where there is a violent dictator, there's no way to negotiate with this person, they're encroaching on other nations, and they are not going to be stopped except through the use of violent or lethal means, like in war, that a country has a right to engage in a just war and to try to stop that person. So World War II and Adolf Hitler and what he was doing in Germany is a good example of a conflict where it's an awful conflict, but it's okay to engage in that. But as we do that, we need to make sure that our means are not overly destructive, that our means are not something that are going to cause a loss of civilian life, and that we're doing the best we can to respect human dignity in those moments. Now, when we talk about the use of lethal force when it comes to like law enforcement, we have to ask a couple of other questions as well. There are situations where a person who is a member of the police force or of another National Guard may find himself or herself in a situation where they feel threatened and where their lives may be endangered. Again, lethal force is always a last resort. So it's something that is not sinful if it's done in self-defense, but the reality is taking the life of another person does leave us with a burden to carry. And so it should always be the last course of action. In fact, training should never reflect anything other than trying to de-escalate situations and do the best you can to use non-lethal force, and as a very last resort, and only as a last resort to lethal force that would take the life of another person. So the short answer is things like war, lethal force, especially when it's done in self-defense and it's done to protect the good of others and done in what we would say is a just war way, no, it is not sinful. However, if we're engaging as a country, or any country is engaging in wars that don't have a just pretext, that are not the last resort when diplomacy has failed, or if a member of law enforcement or any other person who would claim self-defense is actually not de-escalating a situation and is just resorting to lethal force immediately, then those things are sinful. So we need to respect the dignity of all people, and the way we do that is by making sure that all of the means have exhausted until we go to the use of lethal force, and then and only then is it acceptable, but it's never ever preferable. If you've got a question, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Give this video a like, subscribe to our channel at Life Teen, and if you can, go ahead and share it with somebody who's got some big questions as well. I look forward to seeing you all back here really soon.